Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage. And someone will say his career can never be saved. Despite all his rage, he's still just Nicolas Cage.
Hey guys, welcome to Just Nicolas Cage, where I work through Nicolas Cage's filmography. Right now it's October, and it's only right that we talk about a movie loosely involving vampires, and that's the 1989 movie Vampire's Kiss. Vampire's Kiss stars Nicolas Cage, who plays a misogynistic businessman who descends into madness in a series of hallucinations in which he believes that he is a vampire. So Vampire's Kiss is probably a movie you think you've never heard of, but you've probably seen the clip of Nicolas Cage going, "I'm a vampire," or him going, "A, B, C, D, E, F, G," or even that famous "You Don't Say" meme. All of those things came from this movie, Vampire's Kiss. And to be honest, almost every scene of this movie could be chopped up and uploaded to YouTube, and it's like as worthy of a meme status as all those other clips. I mean, there's literally a scene in the movie where Nicolas Cage eats a real live cockroach, and that's not even one of the famous parts of the movie. So to put things into context here, at the end of my Moonstruck review, I talked about how Nicolas Cage said after doing a rom-com with Cher, he wanted to do something more punk rock. And that actually explains quite a lot about this film. You know, up to this point in his filmography, he's been relatively restrained. I mean, we've had a couple of weird accents and some funny freakouts, but this is pure, unadulterated, unfiltered, crazy Cage. You know, watching all these films in order, it's kind of funny seeing that, like, the crazy side of Nicolas Cage has kind of been bubbling within, but this is the movie where he let it all out. So first off, let's talk about that accent he does in this. He has a weird affectation to his voice.
The work's not just gonna go away, Alva. It never just goes away.
It's weird to place the accent. It does sound vaguely like he's trying to do an English accent. I saw a thing from Nicolas Cage saying he was going for a continental accent, which I guess is the English vibe. And apparently he was going for like a fake accent that somebody would put on when they were trying to impress somebody. So in the context of this, that does kind of make sense. Cage does kind of go in and out of the accent throughout the movie, which I thought was kind of him making a mistake, but within the context of that, that does kind of make sense. Maybe the character, he puts on the accent when he's trying to impress somebody, but when he's not, he just has his normal accent. After reading that, I actually do kind of respect that character choice. Cage obviously put a lot of thought into that. But at the same time, the voice is weird and distracting. There's no way around that. And the character that Nicolas Cage plays in this movie, Peter Lowe as he says, he's a real asshole. He's got to be one of the least likable characters that Nicolas Cage has ever played. He's a hotshot literary agent that treats women like complete shit. Especially his secretary, who he constantly like screams at. He shows up to her house with a packet of soup. He calls her the C word. He chases her into the women's bathroom, and at one point he rapes her. The ridiculous quality to Nicolas Cage's performance does kind of make these scenes fun to an extent.
It's not too late.
Too late. Too late.
It's not too late. It's
Too
not too
late.
late.
Too late. Too late. Too late.
But some of these parts are genuinely like kind of upsetting to watch at times. But then you have all the parts where Nicolas Cage thinks he's a vampire, and those parts are gold. A large portion of this movie is just Nicolas Cage screaming and doing crazy shit and improvising. Basically, every scene of this movie has a part where Nicolas Cage does something mesmerizing. I think this is what happens when Nicolas Cage is given free rein, when nobody's there to kind of, hey, knock it off. People often pose the question, Nicolas Cage, good or bad? You know, and people kind of struggle to answer that. There was a whole episode of Community about it. To me, Nicolas Cage is one of the greatest actors of all time. But with a movie like this, you know, it does become a little bit more complicated. It's definitely not a conventionally good performance. But Cage is decidedly not going for something conventional. He actually mentioned that he was going for like a German expressionist style, like Nosferatu or something like that. So I don't know if it's a good performance, but it's an entertaining performance. Between the accent, the movements, the mannerisms, it's a performance like no other. I read that Judd Nelson was apparently in talks for being the lead in this movie. And it got me thinking, if Judd Nelson was the main guy in Vampire's Kiss, nobody would have heard of Vampire's Kiss. I mean, I like Judd Nelson, of course, but there's no way he would have brought anything to the table even close to what Nicolas Cage did. This is absolutely one of those films where this movie is only worth watching because of Nicolas Cage. So I've answered the question, is Nicolas Cage's performance good? Now on to the harder question. what is this movie about? So like I said at the start, the very basic premise of this is that it's about a businessman that goes crazy and thinks he's a vampire. I did kind of have a hard time, like, trying to figure out why and even at what point he went crazy. So, like, the first introduction we get to the character, he's, like, really drunk and he's acting crazy, but it's hard to tell, like, oh, is he drunk or is he always like this? Then there's parts of him with a therapist, but it's kind of later implied that those parts aren't even real, they're in his head. But with a movie like Taxi Driver or even like Joker, the movie, you know, establishes what the character's like, their motivations, and then you see this kind of character study of them into insanity or whatever. But with this movie, yeah, that whole part of it is very unclear. I do kind of like the idea where it kind of presents a man that's turning into a vampire, but there's the implication that, oh, maybe it's in his head, but you're not sure. But that's not what this movie is. This movie goes out of its way to show that he's not really turned into a vampire. Like, he'll be looking into the mirror and he'll be freaking out, oh, I can't see my reflection. But then the audience sees that he can see the reflection, so you go, oh, he's just crazy. There's an intentional lack of ambiguity to it that really makes things even more surreal in a way. Even tonally, this movie is hard to pin down. It's one of those movies where I just don't know what parts are even meant to be funny. Like, there's a part right after Nicolas Cage rapes a woman, he gets a gun and he tries to kill himself, but the bullets are blanks, and he starts to cry. But when he cries, he goes, bah! And it's a weird choice. It's like, what? Why is he doing this? I don't know if this movie is meant to be a dark comedy. Is it meant to be a critique of the yuppie culture of the 80s? Is it an exploration into mental illness? I think the answer is yes, it's meant to be all of these things. It kind of crammed all those concepts with varying degrees of success. Nicolas Cage says he interprets the film as the story of a man whose loneliness and inability to find love literally drives him insane. And I can see elements of that in there. He's a man that looks down on women, treats them badly in the workplace, and has one-night stands and stuff. But there's a girl at the start that he meets, and he seems to kind of have a connection with her. And right about then in the movie, he starts having vampire hallucinations. It's almost as if there's a part of his brain that's preventing him from finding love, and it manifests as a vampire. I don't know if this movie does fully work as an allegory, though. There's a clip of the director of the movie going like, yeah, I think I understand some of what the movie was about. So I don't really like putting too much thought into something where even the filmmaker didn't know what the hell it was. I did see a theory that I kind of liked, that suggested the movie was a series of hallucinations because Nicolas Cage's character has rabies. Because very early in the movie, Nicolas Cage gets bitten by a bat. And apparently some of the effects of rabies include, like, psychosis and hallucinations. But I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense. So overall, I don't know if this is a good movie. It's probably not. It is a movie that I am in awe of. I'm fascinated by it, and I kind of loved it. If you like a Nicolas Cage freakout, then this movie is essential. It's quite possibly him at his craziest. If you don't like when Nicolas Cage goes crazy, or if you like a movie that makes sense, then, you know, don't watch it. I can't believe that it took me this long to watch it. It's one of those films where it's like, where has this been all my life? I truly think it's one of the most enjoyable performances that Nicolas Cage has ever done. So the next thing Nicolas Cage did was a 1 minute long cameo as, like, uncredited man in car in the movie Never on Tuesday. I don't really want to devote a whole video review on something that small, but I would say watch that scene on YouTube. It's pretty hilarious. Nicolas Cage gets out of a car, he has like this fake nose, and he's talking.
Is anybody hurt?
No, everybody's fine.
I guess somebody left.
No, man.
So after whatever the hell that is, he did a movie called Time to Kill, and that's what I'll talk about next. I actually really had a lot of fun talking about Vampire's Kiss. I hope you enjoyed the video. And until the next one, guys, thanks for watching.